Welcome to the Mystic Media channel. I am your host, Rabina Rastavan, aka The Realist Astrologer. And tonight I am going to get into part 2 of my video series on Tupac. Tupac, a tragic hero who fell on his own sword. So, last time I got into his chart, I talked about his sun, Mercury, and Venus being in Gemini. I also talked about Sun square Pluto in brief. I'm going to get deeper into that, and I'm also going to tie Suge Knight into it a little bit later. So, this video is going to be more in depth, and I took down a lot of notes. So if you see like my eyes like just darting back and forth or whatever, that's because I'm looking at the notes that I wrote on a Microsoft Word document. So as I stated previously, Tupac was born on June 16th, 1971. That makes him a 16 in terms of his birth number. And 16, as I mentioned before, if they live through their ego, they have the tendency to be humbled to a great degree. So that's exactly what happened with Tupac. He chose to live through his ego instead of negating his ego and answering his calling to be a full-time humanitarian and activist. So he chose the life of fame and stardom over a life of humanitarianism and being an activist and fighting for causes. So back to Tupac's Mercury at the 18th degree of Gemini. I cannot stress this enough about how crucial each degree of signs are. So the way I deal with astrology, I interlace astrology with numerology, and that's how I come up with my delineations, and it works for me. Now some people, some astrologers may not do that, but that's part of my system. So like I said, Tupac's Mercury is at the 18th degree of Gemini. 18 is a very difficult number. It's one of the most difficult numbers to deal with. It has Mars energy interwoven within it, and it's a number of aggression, a number of battles, a number of beefs. It deals with fights, it deals with warfare, it deals with selfishness, and it can also deal with having like an overblown ego. So, just to reinforce the theme of the number 18 and Tupac's Mercury being at the 18th degree of Gemini, remember Mercury deals with the conscious mind, also the manner in which you communicate. So Tupac, as anybody knows who has any familiarity with his life work and his persona on the world stage, he was very aggressive in terms of his communication. He had a no holds barred approach when it came to speaking and getting his point across. Before I recorded this video, I decided to watch his video "Hit 'Em Up," just to refresh my memory of how hardcore he really was. And go back and look at that video if you haven't seen it in a while, or just listen to the song "Hit 'Em Up." It's the song where he was dissing Biggie Smalls. And he not only dissed Biggie Smalls, he basically talked trash about Little Kim. He talked trash about Faith. Basically, he was like, in the very beginning of the song, he says, "That's why I fucked your bitch, you fat motherfucker." Talk about Biggie Smalls and Faith. And he also says, "You claim to be a player, but I fucked your wife." Also in the song, he's talking about "We bad boy killers. Grab your Glocks when you see Tupac." All of that is Mercury at the 18th degree of Gemini. Very hardcore speech. Like I said, no filter. Say exactly what's on your mind. Being aggressive with your speech. Inciting war, even like inciting hate. All of that. So Tupac was definitely very dominant in terms of communication, and it's evident at the 18th degree of Gemini and in terms of his persona. So he didn't hold back. Another story is in this documentary, one of Tupac's friends talks about how he came to Tupac's home one time and all the windows were open, and basically anybody could see inside Tupac's house. And this is after Tupac had achieved some status and acclaim, and he had some of his platinum records on the wall or whatever. And his friend was like, don't you care about anybody trying to come in and rob you or whatever? And Tupac went to his closet and pulled out an AK-47 and was like, I wish somebody would come in here because I got this waiting for them or whatever. That is the epitome of Mercury at the 18th degree of Gemini. Just totally off the chain, down for whatever, ready and willing, ride or die. So that explains that. Now, also, I mentioned in the previous video, part one, that I was going to tie some asteroids into the equation. So in astrology, asteroids are very important. Asteroids basically are they're like the icing on the cake. They can provide more insight into a person's life, especially when it comes to challenges, and especially when it comes to traumatic or catastrophic events or just life-changing events. So Tupac had the asteroid Nemesis opposing his Mercury in Gemini. Nemesis was in Sagittarius. So Gemini and Sagittarius are opposite signs. So Nemesis basically deals with your enemies, whether enemies are within, meaning you're your own worst enemy, or enemies without, meaning like an actual opponent or a foe. Also, the asteroid Nemesis deals with things that you put the blame on. So if things are going bad in your life, you might, say, oh, it's because of my father and how he screwed my life up. So your father might represent Nemesis, or your ex-boyfriend might represent Nemesis, or your mother, or your, brother, or whoever you have a beef with. That's where Nemesis ends up in your chart. So with Tupac, he had Mercury at the opposite degree of Nemesis. Nemesis is in Sagittarius. Sagittarius deals with long range travel or far distances. So that could deal with the whole East Coast, West Coast beef that he was involved in. And actually, he fanned the flames of that with that Hit 'em Up song. And so whenever he felt attacked, whether it was verbally or physically, he went in direct attack mode, and he oftentimes would take it too far, and he would end up getting caught up in the process. That Mercury opposition Nemesis led to his downfall, because he was like always in attack mode, always in fight mode, always ready to go against anybody who he felt was trying to disrespect him or trying to challenge him or whatever. So that Mercury opposition Nemesis is basically very telling. Also, Nemesis can deal with your Achilles heel, things in your life, whatever trips you up, and it deals with you being your own worst enemy. So also, which deals with Mercury opposition Nemesis, remember, going back to Mercury being at the 18th degree, 18 can deal with violence, it could deal with aggression, it could deal with warfare, it could deal with fighting. So I'm just gonna discuss some of his run-ins with people and with the law, and situations where he ended up either in fights or verbal battles or whatever. So in early 1994, this is all according to Wikipedia. In early 1994, he was found guilty of assaulting Menace to Society co-director Alan Hughes and served 15 days in jail. The previous year, Shakur had boasted during an appearance on Yo MTV Raps that he had beat up the director of Menace to Society, the line later being used against him in court. So let me digress for a minute. So you see what I just read about him beating up the co-director of Menace to Society, because he was originally supposed to be in that movie, but because he was so disagreeable, Mercury at the 18th degree of Gemini opposing Nemesis, because he was so disagreeable, the Hughes brothers decided to axe him from the script. So they chose, I think he was supposed to play oh God, why can't I, Lorenz Tate's role, but I'm not sure. But basically he got axed from that part. So in response, Tupac retaliated. 18th degree can deal with retaliation. And he got into a fight. But then he let his ego take over. Remember I talked about ego and the number 16 and it leading to your downfall? He let his ego get in the way, and he's bragged about it on Yo MTV Raps. And then that was used against him in court. So going back to the number 16, letting your ego, take control, and that leading to your downfall, that causing you to be humble. Also, he has Sun square Pluto. Sun square Pluto in Virgo at that. His sun is in Gemini. Let me tell you guys something about the sign Virgo as opposed to Gemini or versus Gemini. Sun in Virgo, Sun in Gemini, those are very they're in conflict with each other. Now, Gemini is a very versatile, very flexible, very quick on your feet, very quick-witted type of sign. So they're built for the streets. Virgo, however, is not built for the streets in general. So that's why a lot of Virgos, and this includes Virgo rising, Virgo moon, if they, have that, if they're about that street life, it's easy for them to get caught up, and it'll be caught up either through getting locked up, it'll be caught up either through getting murdered, getting robbed, getting raped, or whatever. Now, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily weak. It's about being humble. Pisces is the same way. So Pisces rising, Pisces sun, Pisces rising, Pisces moon can easily get caught up too. Pisces squares Gemini as well. So Gemini is built for the streets, and Gemini actually deals with the streets and neighborhoods. Pisces, however, and Virgo is not built for the streets. They easily get caught up. So Tupac, being a Gemini, had his sun in square to Pluto in Virgo. So that's why he was always getting caught up. So, you have people who, live that street life. They're criminals, they're thugs or whatever, but it seems like they're untouchable, like they're made of Teflon. They never get caught out there. That's because most times they don't have something strong in terms of Virgoan energy or Piscean energy that would cause them to get caught up. So I just wanted to talk about that real quick. So another story. In November 1993, Shakur and others were charged with sexually assaulting a woman in a hotel room. Shakur denied the charges. According to Shakur, he had prior relations days earlier with the woman that were consensual. The woman admitted she performed oral sex on Shakur. The complainant claimed sexual assault after her second visit to Shakur's hotel room. She alleged that Shakur and his entourage raped her. As a result of the trial, Shakur was convicted of first-degree sexual abuse and acquitted of the weapons and sodomy charges. Whoa, sodomy. The judge described the crimes during the sentencing of Shakur to 1.5 to 4.5 years in prison as an act of brutal violence against a helpless woman. Let me also explain something about Virgo and Gemini and when they square each other. That's conflict. Squares means conflict. Now, Gemini and Virgo are mutable signs, and I can't stress this enough. Mutable signs, when agitated, are prone to extreme violence. So that's why you see this line, an act of brutal violence against a helpless woman. Now, I'm not saying that Tupac actually did this, and in my opinion, I don't believe that he actually raped this woman. However, I do believe he was there, and I do believe that, the prior story, and he even corroborated this story, that she did perform oral sex on him days earlier. However, remember what I said about Sun square Pluto. Oftentimes, the person with Sun square Pluto is guilty by association, or they easily get caught up due to the people they associate with. So the people in his clique or entourage was, down with raping this woman. I'm pretty sure someone, or, most of them did the damage. Tupac might have just been a bystander, or maybe he had even left the room, but he got caught up in the process. Why? Because he was the star out of the mix. And, the star always gets the most attention. So being a 16, oftentimes the attention that you're going to receive is, is dealing with scandal, and it's dealing with your downfall. So again, Tupac, living through his ego, he met with, setbacks and downfalls, and he had to, pay out with settlements and all types of stuff, being humble again and again, but still he was not learning his lesson. So moving along. In October 1991, now he did try, now this again deals with Mercury at the 18th degree of Gemini, this fighting spirit within him. In October 1991, Shakur filed a $10 million civil suit against Oakland Police Department, alleging that the police brutally beat him for jaywalking. Shakur received approximately $43,000 in settlement money, good for Tupac, much of which went to pay his lawyer. So again, with 16, it's the number of sacrifice. So you might get big gains, but you might have to give up a lot of it, or if not all of it. Um, Another thing is him being at 18, and then at the Mercury at the 18th degree of Gemini, and then also that activist spirit that he had. So that dealt with, him having the, balls to go up against the Oakland Police Department, where a lot of guys might have just, not even tried to file a case. Also on August 22nd, 1992, in Marin City, Shakur performed at outdoor festival and stayed for an hour afterwards signing autographs and pictures. A confrontation occurred and Shakur drew a legally registered Colt Mustang and allegedly dropped it. As it was picked up by a member of his entourage, a bullet was discharged. About 100 yards away, Quaid Walker Till, a 6-year-old boy, was pedaling his bicycle at a school playground nearby when a bullet struck him in the forehead and killed him. Although the police matched the bullet to a .38 caliber pistol registered to Shakur, and although his stepbrother Maurice Harding was initially arrested on suspicion of firing the weapon, no charges were filed. Marin prosecutors have said that they were stymied by a lack of witnesses. In a 1995 wrongful death suit that was brought against Shakur by Quaid's mother, the defense attorney acknowledged that the bullet that killed Quaid was traced by authorities to a gun registered to Shakur. So again, Shakur getting caught out there being guilty by association. One of his, one of the members of his squad dropped the gun or whatever. It just so happens, freak accident, that the bullet ricochets and kills a 6-year-old boy. So again, going back to the number 16 is a number of misfortune and catastrophe. I hope you guys are understanding where I'm coming from at this point, because astrology and numerology is real. It's the truth. It's life. So moving along. On April 5th, 1993, Shakur was charged with 1 count of felonious assault. He was accused of attempting to hit rapper Chauncey Wynn from the group Mad with a baseball bat at a concert at Michigan State University. Now that right there is totally on Tupac, but that deals with his Mercury at the 18th degree of Gemini, opposing Nemesis and Sagittarius. Again, mutable signs. Sagittarius is a mutable sign. Gemini is a mutable sign, prone to extreme violence when pushed to the limit. He was sentenced to 30 days in jail, 20 of which were suspended, in order to perform 35 hours of community service. In October 1993 in Atlanta, 2 brothers and off-duty police officers, Mark and Scott Whitwell, were with the wives celebrating Mrs. Whitwell's passing of a state bar examination. The officers were drunk and in possession of stolen guns. As they crossed the street, a car with Shakur inside passed them or almost struck them. The Whitwells argued with the driver, Shakur, and the other passengers, who were joined by a second passing car. Shakur shot one officer in the buttocks and the other in the leg, back, or abdomen, according to varying news reports. So again, Mercury at the 18th degree of Gemini, opposing Nemesis. So whoever would, have the balls to challenge Tupac, he was bringing it. And, you better be ready. So 18th degree, you can oftentimes, Mercury at the 18th degree, you might be very fond of firearms and guns and weapons in general. And it's all about defense or offense. So more and more stories, like in early 1994, he was found guilty of, I talked about the Menace to Society one. So let's take it to Tupac's configuration involving his Venus, which is right next to his Saturn, and it's opposing his Jupiter, which is right next to Neptune. I'm going to break down what that means and do the knowledge of that. So October 1995, Shakur's case was on appeal, but because of his considerable legal fees, he could not raise the $1.4 million bail. This is where Suge Knight comes in, and this is where this configuration ties in. After serving 9 months of his sentence, Shakur was released from the Clinton Correctional Facility On October 12th, 1995, 12 is a number of sacrifice or victim. Breaks down to 3. 3 is a number of freedom, so being released. Due in large part to the help and influence of Suge Knight, the CEO of Death Row Records, who posted a $1.4 million bail pending appeal of the conviction in exchange for Shakur releasing 3 albums under the Death Row label. Now, let's tie this into Tupac's chart. So like I say, he has Venus conjunct Saturn, opposing Jupiter conjunct Neptune. And these are is the two conjunctions, Jupiter conjunct Neptune, Venus conjunct Saturn. They're what is called dissociative conjunctions. So they're in different signs. A lot of times conjunctions are in the same sign, but this is in different signs, which makes it even more complex. So that is the epitome. What I just mentioned with the astrological configuration, that is the epitome of what just occurred, what I just read. Basically, Suge Knight bailing Tupac out in exchange for him signing the deal to release 3 albums under the Death Row label. Now, that was where Tupac sold his fate. And I believe at that point, Tupac knew full well that this was going to be his death sentence. I believe he signed his death warrant right then and there. And it's very funny that Suge Knight's label was called Death Row Records. So, yes, you can't make this stuff up. So basically, the way it is this. Venus deals with money. I'm going to make it real simple. Venus deals with money. Saturn deals with business. Venus conjunct Saturn, money, business. Saturn also deals with authority. It also deals with administration, but it also deals with control. Now, Jupiter can deal with groups of people, deals with beliefs, but it also deals with freedom. In Scorpio, Jupiter's in Scorpio. Scorpio is a sign about underhandedness, criminal activity, gang mentality, or gangs in general. Also murder. Conjunct Neptune. Neptune deals with imprisonment. It deals with bondage. It deals with sacrifice. When you mix it all together, basically it's selling your soul in exchange for your freedom. Now, I strongly believe if Tupac would have stayed in prison and, turned down that deal, I believe he might be alive today. But then again, he had that Mercury at the 18th degree of Gemini opposing Nemesis in Sagittarius, so he might have had some other run-in that led to his death. But Gemini is a purely conscious sign. So usually Gemini knows exactly what they're doing and what they're getting into. So, like I said, I believe that Tupac knew exactly what he was doing when he signed on. But I believe at that point in his life, he felt like he had already gone so far in the wrong direction, because I believe that he strongly knew what his calling was, but he allowed the fame and the fortune and, the music industry in general to, overpower him. And he gave himself over to that. But basically, he made a willful sacrifice. And that's why I believe, but also along with Suge Knight's motivation and also maybe coercion, that's why he started making music about his death and predicting his death. And, his music was very morbid and bleak towards the end of his life, especially with the Machiavelli album. And talk about Machiavelli. Machiavelli deals with Gemini energy, because it's about playing one side against the other. It's about being two-faced. It's about knowing your opponent and being able to outsmart them. So Tupac was really intelligent. He was really on some next shit. But I feel that once he determined that he lost, and I feel like that was when he was already in prison, that he said, okay, well, I'm signing my death warrant, but I'm going to go out with a bang. And that's exactly what he did. Now, I have to cut this video off now because it's getting long, but I have much more information to share. So I'm going to extend this into part 3. So I'm going to get deeper into the Suge Knight Tupac connection in terms of their charts. And I'm going to look into both of their charts on the day of that fatal shooting in Las Vegas. So I hope you found this insightful and enlightening. Please stay tuned. Peace and blessings.